Let's start with a pro. Freedom. A big pro. The freedom to wake up here. I've had this camper for over a year now. Often I love it. And from time to time, it causes me some anxiety. But certainly not on this gorgeous morning, poised for big adventures in Big Sur. And I discovered things about myself over the past 19 months. Unearthed things about myself as a traveler from another planet. What I like, what I don't like, all while soaking in a typical human nomadic camping experience. I have no regrets. But let's talk today, shall we, about the pros and cons of owning a small camper. Let's jump into a con, shall we? We'll switch back and forth. Believe it or not, one of my number one cons, because I'm currently a nomad and don't have a garage to store my trailer when I'm not camping, is parking. Parking. It causes me some agita. Most recently, I did some doggy sitting in between my trips. Or sometimes I'll visit human friends on the road, and I always have to figure out where I am going to park it. I actually got a parking ticket in El Segundo, which is a neighborhood near the Los Angeles airport. In the Los Angeles area, you can find campers parked all over the place, but somehow I still managed to get a ticket. Also, if you're on the road and you want to stop at a restaurant or some attraction, you just need to make sure you choose somewhere with adequate parking. If you stay in a hotel for the night, you're always thinking about parking. Well, I probably worry about it more than most aliens. In fact, I think I might have a mild parking anxiety. I'm not sure if I inherited this from the original owner of this brain, or if I developed it on my own. Hard to say. Let's have a category called pro or con. This next one could be either. Towing. If you're not used to pulling something, you might get a little anxious in the very beginning, but honestly, that feeling becomes way less pronounced quite quickly. Especially when you see some of the huge rigs pull up when you're camping, you'll be thankful you have your tiny little rig. Obviously, there is expense when adding weight to your vehicle in terms of gas, which is so expensive right now. That's no fun. On the other hand, this RangeRunner is so light, 785 pounds empty. It's so light that if you are at a camping spot and having trouble backing in, like me sometimes, you can literally unhook your rig and roll it into the spot. Well, maybe not everyone can, but I find that I can pull that off with my current human body. I have a queen-size bed in the spacious 6x8 interior of my camper. It's so comfortable, so much better than sleeping on a blow-up mattress in a tent, and I sleep like a little tiny baby in a cocoon. In fact, I have to set alarms so I don't oversleep. Climate control can be tricky, but that's a topic coming up. I had heard someone say that outside noise was a con for them, but honestly, I just sleep really well. It's a gift, so this isn't a problem for me. I love my little cave on wheels. Pro or con, if you're towing a small camper, you can unhook and leave it at your campsite and drive around. Seems like a pro, but also you worry, is someone going to steal my stuff or my camper? I stopped worrying about this fairly quickly once I got on the road. It doesn't seem to happen a lot while camping, but if you have something really valuable, maybe have a system for hiding it. With a van, you drive everywhere with your home and can easily pull into a regular parking spot, but every time you go to a store, you're taking your whole home. So maybe that's a con. So I don't know. I think maybe being able to unhook and drive is mostly a pro. The cost. You'll probably feel like the camper itself should be cheaper because it's small. There are videos out there that talk about why it's expensive to buy even a small rig. Mine was on the cheap end of things at $6,900 and change with all of the extras, which I will list in the description below. And of course, you have to buy all the camping supplies like a power source, a battery, in my case, or a generator. Or, if you're from the planet Gugu-Gee, like me, and you wanted to cheat, you could use a power orb. But I recommend foregoing that and having an authentic human experience. I'll tell you what, the cost that surprised me the most was the camping spots. And your dreams of waking up in an idyllic national park will need to be planned out in advance. You can get sites in those parks fairly cheap, like $28 to $40 a night, but usually with no electric. You most likely will have bathroom facilities and probably showers. The idea of heading out on the road with no reservations to camp at Yosemite is not realistic. They're most likely booked for a while. Now, there are always spots to be had nearby, like for Yosemite, I camped at Lake McSwain, about an hour and 40 minutes away from the center of Yosemite Valley, and it was reasonably priced and had electric. But you're still paying for the gas to get to the park, and you're not waking up next to Half Dome. Recently, I wanted to book a KOA camp spot in Middle Tennessee, thinking it would be fairly cheap, and they wanted about $75 for the high end and $50 for the low end. Or when I camped in Visalia, KOA, in California, which is still about an hour and a half to hour and 20 minutes from the Sequoia National Parks, the cost per night was $62 to $66. You could almost get a hotel for that. Almost. A dicey hotel. But you could probably find one without bedbugs. When I was in Utah visiting Bryce and Zion, I stayed at a delightful little Airbnb cabin in central Utah. Central's the name of the town. And I drove an hour and 20 minutes to Zion and probably about 2.5 hours to Bryce. I noticed there are some beautiful, probably not cheap, lodgings at Bryce if you plan ahead. Same for Zion. There's a city right outside of Zion, but it's very busy. Anyway, I thought that camping would be a lot cheaper. You do pay for that authenticity and oneness with nature. Exercise. This is just for camping in general, really. I tend to exercise a lot more when I'm out camping. I'm setting up the camper, pushing the camper into place, jacking the camper up. I'm hiking in the woods, hiking in the mountains. For the weekend adventurer, a teardrop-style camper is less of a commitment and expense than a big, huge rig. And you can get out there and exercise in nature. Take care of your human body. I touched on this topic already. You generally have to plan in advance for the amazing spots. There are sites like Campendium, which will help you get information ahead of time about various camping spots. I found out the hard way when I pulled into Benson, Arizona, that some RV parks don't accept my kind. No, I don't mean they don't accept aliens. I mean, your money's no good at some RV parks if you have a teardrop camper. The issue seemed to be the bathroom. The human at Benson said, "We don't accept campers without a bathroom." And I said, "But you have public bathrooms for your guests. I see them." "That's just our rule," she said. So always have a backup plan. Pro, if you have a house with a garage or a 2-car garage, this camper is perfect. It's about 11 feet, 4 inches at the longest, and about 94 inches wide. As I said, the interior of the camper is 6 by 8. If you have room on your driveway, that's also perfect. You might need to get a cover. Pro or con? My model does not have a kitchen hatch in the back, but it's 8 feet long with a back door, so if I was motivated, I could have perhaps put in a false wall and fashioned something. But instead, I just keep a folding table in the Jeep, and I set that up near my gas tank, an extra that I got with the camper, and I unpack my kitchen supplies from the back of the Jeep. If cooking outside seems awful, this might be a con. I like it fine, usually, so I think it's a pro. I also don't do a ton of cooking on the road. I eat a moderate amount of prepackaged food, or I get food from a restaurant, or I cook sometimes. I mix things up, really. Amenities. If you're used to having some pampering on the road, the teardrop style, and I realize that mine is not shaped like a teardrop, but is a box, the tiny camper may not be for you. But if you're used to tent camping, this will seem like paradise. If you want to work on the road, be a nomad, it's a challenge to figure out internet. Sometimes you won't have electricity, especially if you want those cheap national park spots. So as I mentioned, you may need a battery or a generator. You don't have a toilet in your rig. I have an emergency toilet. I've never used it in 19 months. I've always found a bathroom somewhere, but I'm very glad to have it just in case. It gives me a feeling of safety. I feel like your bowels adjust on the road. They instinctively know they need to lock down just a bit. Since I have certain equipment, I have a urination bottle that I keep in the camper in case I need it in the middle of the night. Showers. You can join a gym on the road. You can also carry disposable wipes for the in-between times. But if you need your hot shower, then you better camp in a nice park. Boondocking or dry camping might not be for you. But, really, I think most people can handle anything for a day or two to try it out. That's what I suggest. Try it out. While we're on amenities, let's do a related con. Temperature control when sleeping is always a little delicate. My rig, thankfully, came with an AC, and I have a little heater, which is also great. I try to be smart about having electrical hookups if it's really hot or really cold. And in the winter months, I stay to the south. Heaters and AC take up a lot of juice, so you can't really run them on a battery for long. Generators are loud, so you have to think about your fellow campers. When I was at Big Sur, it was kind of cold outside at night, but I bundled up with clothes and blankets, and I was quite cozy. This will be different for everybody, depending on what small camper you buy, but I have not had any major problems with my rig. I think Runaway Campers did a great job making a solid camper, my RangeRunner, for a fair price. I haven't had any leaks. But one small complaint. I do wish they made all 3 locks with the same key. I did get a key stuck in the wrong lock, and now I can only lock that door from the inside. It's a pain, but I'm happy with the quality. Well, I'm getting to the end of my list. Let's do a pro or con speed round. You can't stand up, so getting dressed, sitting on your bed, is a challenge at first. Maybe a con. But then you develop new muscles in your midsection, and you get impressed with yourself for being stronger. Pro. I guess it's a con if you need a lot of stuff. I've gone with not a lot of stuff for 19 months now, somehow. So maybe living more simply is a pro in a way. I don't get dressed up at all. I tend to be casual all the time. If I had to wear a suit somewhere, I'd be in trouble. No dress clothes on board. I don't know if I'll travel forever. I miss my home planet sometimes. But for now, I still love this. If you have wanderlust, then you don't mind not feeling exactly grounded. But if you need your space defined, locked down, and get anxious when you don't have that, maybe you should stick to weekend camping. But being a nomad would probably be hard. Well, happy traveling out there, humans and Gugu-Gee-ans. I will see you next week. By the way, very quickly, if you like the show, consider Buy Me a Coffee to help support the show. Buy Me a Coffee is a great way for creators and artists to accept one-time support or membership ongoing from their fans for the price of a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/brainfire to help the show. Thank you.
Take some coffee and some bagels and get out of here to where the